Well, hello guys. So I just wanted to make a little video. I had talked about posting a video about my birthing story right after I had Shane, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Sorry, I'm actually feeding him right now. But it's been so busy that I haven't. The reason, I thought I was going to share my story no matter how my birth ended up going. A lot of you that were following me may have known that I was planning on doing a home birth, uh, or hoping to do that. But around 14 weeks, I started having some pruritus, which is just some itching from head to toe, no rash, just uncontrollable itching that was just awful. So that started at 14 weeks. And I had morning sickness until 13 weeks. So I had a 1 week of having like a pretty chill pregnancy, and then the rest was just not my favorite and not what I expected out of being pregnant. So I decided I went through the itching, trying to get rid of it on my own through my midwife for about 6 weeks, and it was awful. I would have moments where it was a little bit manageable, and then just I have scars on my legs from just like scratching in my sleep, and then just being like, screw it, and just going crazy, because it's just, anyone that's dealt with it can tell you that it's one of the worst things ever. Women will take like sandpaper to their skin. It's just god awful. And it doesn't make pregnancy so pleasant and harder to connect with your little one, because you're just so, I don't know, just feeling awful the whole time, pretty much. So anyways, so I co-cared all of my pregnancy with my midwife. I had a doula as well, and I also had my OB, sorry, my kid is just acting silly. So I co-cared with the OB as well, and found a doctor that was willing to not try to induce me until 40 weeks and let me go as far as I could, because a lot of people with cholestasis, the condition that I had, they end up having to induce. A lot of them do around 35, 36 weeks, and have to get steroids for their baby's lungs to develop, or in a lot of cases just do it as soon as they hit 37. And I didn't want to do that. I have a lot of reasons and beliefs in natural birth, and not even just trying to do it at home. That was something that I was really passionate about. And before I was pregnant, I played with the idea of becoming a doula myself. And anyways, so I co-cared, and around, I can't remember exactly, but I'd say around 33 weeks-ish, I started having to go for testing and extra ultrasounds at the hospital, just to make sure that my little guy was okay. So bear with me, this little guy is just acting really silly and trying to eat, but acting goofy. So I ended up, the whole time, pretty much what cholestasis is that your liver and your gallbladder are not producing and processing bile correctly. Lots of terrible symptoms other than the itching, but that was the worst. So my liver, my bile acid levels rose, and they kept kind of going up and down and yo-yoing, but at 37 weeks, I was tested. It takes about a week to get the results back at my hospital. And a healthy liver bile acid level is under, I believe, the 14 range. And I was testing at 90. And then when she tested me that time at 37 weeks, I had skyrocketed up to 150. So when we found out around 38 weeks, on Monday at 38 weeks, we found out and got the results back, and she just felt very confident that it was time for me to go ahead and get induced. And because I was worried about Shane, I didn't want to push the home birth idea, and Didn't want to be too stubborn just in case anything happened to him. So at 38 weeks, we made that decision, and that next night on Tuesday, I went into the hospital at 9 p.m. and I wanted to share kind of hour by hour, play by play what happened in the hospital, because it wasn't at all what I expected from my birthing experience, and I had moments where I was really worried that it was going to scar me, how it ended up going, but I left the hospital feeling super empowered, and like I exhausted all my options of trying to attempt my natural birth, and ended up with my blessing of a baby boy. So, get in there at 9, they get me all settled, and at 10 o'clock, and at the appointment the day before, I had had my membrane stripped for the second time in an attempt to go into labor on my own. So when I went to the hospital on that Tuesday evening, I was having light contractions, but nothing too severe, so I couldn't try at home, but nothing regular. So they hooked me up to the machine, saw that there was some contractions going. I felt a little bit, but it wasn't too painful. And even though I was not excited about this, I felt okay after discussing it with my doula and my birthing team. I had to get Cytotec, which I had heard terrible things about. If you've heard The Business of Being Born, it really scared the crap out of me, the idea of having to use this as an induction method. But I trusted my birthing team, and that's what we decided to do, and it ended up being okay. So at 10 o'clock p.m., they inserted the first round of Cytotec, and pretty much right after, I started feeling some contractions. It was definitely different, pretty much right then. And so at 10 o'clock, we inserted the first round of Cytotec, and then they continued to check me every 4 hours. So at 2 o'clock a.m., they came back in. Sorry, I have notes, so I'm going to reference those because it was so long and I was so out of it and tired. They gave me my second round of Cytotec at 2 a.m., and when they had checked me, I went into the hospital with 1 centimeter dilation and 80% effaced. At that next check, they saw that I was at still at 1 centimeter, but 90% effaced, so just a little bit more effaced, and I was starting to thin out, so I felt good about that. It wasn't too painful yet, so whatever, a little bit of progress. 6 o'clock a.m., they come back in again, and I dilated to 2, and I was stuck at 90% effaced. A little more progress, not too much pain, sweet. During this whole time, I really didn't want to be hooked up to any IVs or anything like that, and they were really considerate, and I loved my hospital. They were, even though I went in super crunchy with a lot of expectations and telling them how it was going to be, they were awesome. And I also brought in a gift basket, but I was encouraged by my doula to do this because they knew that I was going to be kind of a pain in the ass and that it would probably be better to butter them up before I started saying no to everything that they wanted to do. So at 6 a.m. they did the third round of Cytotec. Yeah, that's whenever I was at the 2 centimeters and stuff. 10 o'clock a.m., nothing. I was still stuck at 2 centimeters and 90% effaced. So, talking with my midwife, I'm not sure, so talking with my midwife, we decided to go ahead and break my waters at 2 centimeters. So, wow. Yeah, that was not awesome. I was really scared. It wasn't as bad as I expected. Was not really cool. It felt weird. But, so my waters broke at 10 a.m. that following Wednesday. At that point, I was there for 12 hours with contractions. And this is like, I felt like there was something going on, and it was painful before. But I was kind of like, okay, if we keep it at this steady pace, I can do this. Like, even if it gets way gnarly, like, I'm liking this rhythm. It's cool. And then, when they broke my waters, it was just a little bit of a different ball game. So for that 4 hours, we were walking around the hospital. I was laboring, just walking around, going outside, all that stuff, because I still wasn't attached to any machines yet. And we go back at 2 p.m. to get checked, and I was at 4 centimeters, and super awesome, but it wasn't enough progress for them to want to get the to not bring on Pitocin. I didn't want Pitocin. I was pretty adamant about that. But yeah, we did anyways, and it was just what my OB suggested.